Hey, good morning. I am joined today by Emma Leeson from Every Daughter. She's the director of outreach, and I'm just really excited to have this conversation. So, on behalf of Collaboration Project, our mission is always about trying to bring churches together to better serve in the community. And I'm a huge fan of Every Daughter. So, Emma, just thank you so much for taking some time to join us this morning.
Hey, thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Let me just jump right in. And I think you work in a world that so many of us just can hardly even fathom. So I'm just wondering if you could start by just telling us what's happening in Dane County. And I know this is not just limited to Dane County, but that necessitates an organization like Every Daughter and others who are doing the kind of work that you do.
Yeah, so Dane County is interesting just because we have a lot going on. There are a lot of people from all over the country, all over the world that live here. As we know, university and intersection of interstates, there's a lot of people and a lot of coming and going. So something that a lot of people don't realize is that human trafficking is happening all around us. And sexual exploitation, we kind of are aware of what prostitution is, and we see it in the movies and all that stuff. But something that we don't realize is that it's happening in hotels. Like pretty much every hotel in Madison, there's trafficking and exploitation going on. So in Dane County, kind of as a snapshot for you, we see between like upwards of 300 ads posted on a daily basis for people who are advertising online to sell sex. And that's something that we monitor and the police department monitor. So it's a really common issue. And the the women who are advertising are a combination of people who have been trafficked, who are currently being trafficked, or who are choosing the lifestyle of prostitution for their own reasons. So, yeah.
Wow. I feel like when you hear that, it's one of those, it can feel shocking over and over again.
Yeah.
And I know there's a number of organizations that are working to fight human trafficking and sex trafficking in Dane County. Tell us a little bit about like what is the unique mission of Every Daughter?
Yeah. So Every Daughter is it's totally volunteer based. We're a group of women from local churches who um do direct outreach to women who are transitioning out of or maybe still active in the sex industry, commercial sex industry. Something unique about us is that we're not social workers. We are there to primarily provide relational support, and something that nobody else in Madison is doing is that we directly reach out to the women. So we every month we pull ads from those websites where they're being advertised and call or text the phone numbers that we find and just offer our support. So between that outreach, that call and text outreach, and different referrals that we get from the police department and other organizations, that's how we connect with these women. But because we're not social workers and we're not kind of like with a government agency of any kind, we can kind of provide like a form of friendship and support that, you know, isn't muddled by all the bureaucracy or whatever of, working with a government agency.
Hmm. And and you're a faith-based organization, is that right? Or how does that factor into your mission?
Yeah, a big part of what we do is another huge group of women that are part of our group. Their primary job is to pray. And so every week and every day, we send out text messages and emails to those women with specifics about what's going on with the ladies we're working with and ways that they can pray. We know that like this kind of work is really, it can be really dark, it can be really exhausting, and there's just a lot going on like a spiritual level. So we know we need prayer, we need the Holy Spirit with us working with us and giving us the capacity to have grace and understanding for the women we serve.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Mhm.
I know, Emma, from talking to you from time to time, that there's sometimes some common myths out there that I think for those of you who are working in this kind of space day to day can sometimes be a little crazy making. So I was hoping maybe you could just unpack for those of us watching, what are some of the common myths you run into around human trafficking or maybe specifically sex trafficking that are
Yeah.
particularly unhelpful? And help us tell a little better story or have a better understanding.
Yeah. So I actually had a funny conversation about this yesterday with someone who was like, I always thought about trafficking as, you have to be kidnapped in order to be trafficked. And I was like, that is actually a very common myth. So I think that that's it's really common for people to think that kidnapping is like kind of a prerequisite for how people get trafficked, or they're brought from one country to another. People kind of think about trafficking as like, like somebody being chained to, like, physically forced to do the things that they don't want to do. But oftentimes, a more familiar story is that a young girl, maybe a 14 or 15-year-old girl, is befriended by an older guy. They start dating. He starts being more and more controlling. And then eventually he's maybe abusing her, and he's asking her to do things and saying, like, you need to do this. If you did this, you love me. If you did this, you would provide this sex act so that I could pay for our hotel room tonight, that sort of thing. So I think the most common myth is probably that there's kidnapping involved, there's smuggling people across borders, that sort of thing. But really, more often than not, it starts as like a genuine relationship, but usually with an older man. And it involves a lot of control and coercion, loads of manipulation, where the girl is always at the disadvantage. She's always being exploited from the beginning. Her vulnerability is being exploited. So yeah, I don't know. I think that's probably, when it comes to myths, that's probably the one that's the most common. It's the one I hear most. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, again, I know just from previous conversations, it can be an area that can be so easily sensationalized and almost to the point where it's like dehumanizing the
Yeah.
women all over again. So just yeah, thanks for unpacking that.
Yeah, I think that a lot of times it kind of, like, the dehumanizing thing is important to think about, because I can't, as a person, personally, I can't empathize with somebody being kidnapped because I've never been kidnapped. But I can empathize with, like, looking up to somebody and wanting to please them, like being a people pleaser, right? And like, you take that to its like utmost unhealthy extreme, and suddenly you're in a really unhealthy place and being taken advantage of. So like, it's usually those small steps that get people in a position where they're being trafficked.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So yeah, I want, again, for those who are watching, to better understand kind of the average week or month of what you and the volunteers do as part of your mission, because I think it can be so hard for us to just even get our heads around this. It can feel overwhelming, and I think in that overwhelming, we just want to shut it out. And the hope today is really to help encourage people to move towards supporting the work that you're doing and other organizations like you. So can you just offer for us an overview of what the staff and volunteers do? And you shared a little bit, but maybe just unpack that a little bit more for us.
Yeah. So first of all, I think that our team uh, is like, we're really committed to it having kind of a like easy. We want it to be lightweight. We want it to be low maintenance for people, but that they can take on as much as they have capacity and desire to. So there are some people on our team who just don't have a lot of capacity. Maybe they have young kids at home and a full plate already. So those people, they maybe just get coffee with somebody once a month, somebody that we're working with. Then there are others of us who, myself and my co-leader, Abby, we do a lot where, today, for example, after this meeting, I'm going to babysit a 2-month-old baby who is the daughter of one of the ladies we're working with, because she's the lady's moving into a new apartment. So Abby is going to be driving around helping her get the furniture she needs and getting settled into her new apartment. Other things that we do: last week, we were getting lunch with a woman we'd been working with for a few months, and just connecting and talking about her future and helping her think through what's coming next for her. or we do a lot of driving. A lot of these women are homeless or don't have cars or reliable transportation, so they need help getting to appointments, like going to see their parole officer or getting to job interviews, that sort of thing. So a lot of what we do is just relational support. Something that I've been thinking about a lot lately is how isolated these women feel and are. I think that as somebody who has a pretty healthy, family and life, I take it for granted how many people I could reach out to if something went wrong,
Mm.
if like my car broke down, or if I needed a place to sleep tonight or whatever. I could call like 20 people, you know. And the women that we're working with, they just don't have anybody. That's kind of one of the ways that traffickers get the control that they have, is that they cut the woman off from anybody healthy in their life. And so a lot of these ladies, they just don't have anybody healthy that they can count on to, to provide support, to give them a ride. They'll say, hey, pick me up at 4 o'clock, and everybody they call says they can't or says they will, but then don't show up.
Mm.
So that's a lot of what we do, is we provide kind of just a healthy and stable presence in their lives. That's, just through like being available to help them with things. And also just like connecting and checking in and having normal conversations like you would with any friend. Yeah.
What I love about what you're describing, Emma, is that it feels so just human. Like I feel like you just described what I think all people long for, and I think that longing of connection and value and being known is like it's a universal human
Yeah.
longing. And so I think that's helpful, because I think it can be so hard to get our for those again who are not like in the work you're doing day to day, like to get our minds around even approaching that. So yeah, just thanks for sharing that. I know you all have some things that you're dreaming about, you're excited about, that you would love to see as part of your ministry, your work. So just tell us a little bit, as as God allows, like where do you see Every Daughter in 6 months, 12 months, maybe even 18 months? Dream for us a little bit out loud.
Yeah. Oh man. That's tough because we have a lot of ideas.
Sure.
And then there's like reality. But I think that like I can say with some confidence that we like our primary hope is that we can continue to grow our like network of outreach members. Right now there are 7 of us, and with like different levels of availability.
Mm.
And when the majority of that falls on just a couple of people's shoulders, then it just starts to feel pretty heavy. So we've had to really kind of be a little bit more aware of how many women that we can work with at one time. So right now, I think we are actively working with 8 women. And that's a lot, actually. It might not sound like a lot, but it is. Oh, there's my dog in the background. Sorry. um, but our biggest desire, yeah, is to just see more people involved, even if it's just like 2 hours a week, 3 hours a week, just maintaining regular connection. Another big part of what we've been really praying towards and like just building on is creating community for these women. A really kind of transformative thing is seeing women who have common experience come together and just like share stories and like I don't know, just like strengthen one another. So we've started having these kind of group events where the women that we're working with, normally it's just like me and one woman, right? Having coffee. But lately we've been bringing everybody together for events, like we do a shopping hour with a local store on the west side of Madison, where different women come, they just kind of see each other and they're like saying hi or whatever. We also do a nail night where we meet at a salon here on the east side, and they have nail techs who volunteer their time to just do nails, and we talk and we have dinner, and they get a chance to meet one another. So just like ideally over the coming months, we'll continue to do more events like that. And then a big part of what I'd love to see is just kind of dealing with like the issue of unstable housing for these women. I think only one of the ladies that we're working with right now has like a really solid housing situation. And tomorrow there'll be two because our friend is moving today. So, but most of them are in recovery homes or living in shelters or hotels, that sort of thing. And like we're like our hope is to help them kind of get apartments, get stable, get into apartments that feel safe to them as well, because a lot of the places that they can afford aren't in neighborhoods they feel comfortable in. So trying to raise money to do something called a Fresh Start Fund that, I don't know, we just kind of made it up, but basically like create a budget where we can offer to help with the first month's, last month's rent, security deposit, first couple months to kind of get them established while they find their feet and get into a place that works well for them so that they can, have some stability in their lives. And then, far down the road, we'd love to see a drop-in center close to downtown opened up. That's just open during the day and then for evening meals, just as a safe place where people can come and, hang out and get some resources and have connection to the internet, use the printer, that sort of thing. There are a lot of places like that around here, but nothing directed specifically towards women who have the kind of background that we are working with. So.
Well, thank you for sharing those dreams. I think that really actually leads nicely into our last question, which again gets kind of to the core of like why we're having this conversation. So again, I think our hope is that people within the Christian church community of Dane County will watch this, that they'll be informed and inspired by the work, because I think what Every Daughter is doing is fantastic, and that they'll naturally ask, okay, how can I help? So let's end by answering that question. How can the church community support your work? And as much as possible, I would, please offer us what would be some tangible next steps that people could take.
Sure. So obviously, like if you give us your money, we'll spend it. But the good thing is that it's all going directly to the women. So like, that's what I love it about Every Daughter. It's like, there's like no overhead. So literally everything just goes straight to helping these women, which is like so cool. And I love it. So you could do that. But also something that I think has become more and more evident is that, people talk about how like it takes a village to raise a child, but I think that it's just as true. Like it takes a village or a community to raise a woman out of the position of vulnerability that they're in. When I think about just like the common themes of what it means to be trafficked, it's really like this exploitation of the vulnerable, and like vulnerable for so many reasons, and a lot of it comes down to just trauma. And so like coming around people who have that level of vulnerability, I mean, it's what we're called to do as believers. Jesus says to open our doors and our hearts to the poor, to the powerless, to the orphan. And so when I think about what it means to come around these women, I'm thinking about like, it's not just me as a friend, it's us opening our doors as a church to people who are dealing with substance abuse, and being okay with the brokenness there, and a lot of our churches are already doing that. So beautiful. People feel safe in our churches. And so continuing to do that. And another really important thing that I've just become more aware of is just more people who have like skills or resources to offer. For example, I was working with a lady recently who lost her Social Security card. And so we had all these questions, like legal questions about how to, no, it wasn't that. She needed a social security card. She had never been given one. That's what it was. So it was like a little more complicated. And so I didn't know what to do. So in, COVID, they were not answering their phones over at the Social Security office. So rather than just Googling it, I called a friend of mine who's a lawyer, and I was like, hey, what should we do? And he was able to just like provide insight, right? And so as like after that experience, I realized like, man, there are so many people in our churches who have these like really unique skill sets that have a heart to work with and provide support to women who are coming out of difficult, challenging lifestyles and circumstances. So I think that having like this network of people, anywhere from like massage therapists to mechanics to just guys who are willing to drive U-Haul trucks to help people move,
Mm.
or lawyers, or kind of any of these, like there's like this broad spectrum of professions that could really just provide help, and like just simple small connecting points for these women to bring and provide that community that they have never had. So that's just like one thing. So I'm kind of trying to like build up this like list of people I can call. I'm like, oh, so and so's brakes are going out. Who can I call to help with that? Because she can't afford taking it to the dealership or whatever.
Yeah, that's really helpful. And so would a person, if they're interested and kind of pairing their gifts and talents with the work that you're doing, reach out through the website, or what would be the first step that you would recommend they take?
Yeah, I think the website's probably easiest, or they could email me. What's my email address? I think it's Emma at Every Daughter.
Okay, we can link that on the video.
I'll
So
link it.
if you want us to share that, we can do that on your behalf. That's great.
Yeah, yeah. And another thing that I think is really important, there are a lot of people who love Jesus, but also own businesses and property. So something that we've run up against a lot is women who have a hard time holding down a job, maybe because, or even finding a job, maybe because they have a felony in their background and people aren't willing to hire them, or they just have like challenging circumstances and maybe they're not like the ideal employee. So I know there are some businesses that already do this. They kind of take a risk for that one person and hire somebody that might not be a perfect fit, but it's going to be this like major hurdle that that woman is overcoming because now they have a job. So that's another thing that people could do. And then as far as people who are maybe landlords, a lot of people have a hard time finding stable housing, primarily because in their past, part of being trafficked is a lot of the times traffickers will, as a way to control, will kind of destroy a woman's credit. They'll take credit cards out in her name, they'll rent cars in her name, and then her credit just goes down the tubes. So then somebody tries to get an apartment later once they're like free from that trafficker, and it's almost impossible because of her track record. So that's another like kind of big risk and big ask is for landlords to be willing to take risks for some people. And Every Daughter, even, like part of what we're thinking about is like, how could we also like provide some financial backing or support to landlords who are willing to take that risk, and like us, like making sure that that security deposit is there just through the finances that we receive. But yeah, these are just ideas, but I think that they're good ones.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic. I mean, I love your dreams. I love the work you're doing. And Emily, and thank you so much for taking some time out of your morning to share with us. Again, we'll post this up, and our hope again is that for those who are watching, will be moved to reach out. So just thank you so much again for what you're doing, and really grateful for Every Daughter and the amazing work that you do in our community. So thanks so much.
Thanks, John. We love collaboration projects. Thanks for having me.
That's kind. We will definitely not edit that last part out. That's good. All right. Have a good one.
Bye.